Hello folks, welcome. Linux Mint 22 Cinnamon. Today I'm going to talk about your web browser, Firefox, how to speed it up. And also if you have this affliction where you open the browser and you close and try to reopen, you get that post-it note that it says stuff is still running and you have to wait a couple seconds to reopen. I'll show you a setting that will reduce quite a bit of that. But I'm also going to talk about a setting that can significantly speed up your web browser. I'll also talk about the relationship with your random access memory, or RAM, and then just give you also general tips, my tips. But the first tips I'm going to give you are actually printed and done by someone else. So to be fair about it, you'll see the website in a second. Filming in 1080, adjust your YouTube player accordingly. I heavily suggest you subscribe and watch the video in its entirety. The first recommendation before doing this, I would recommend that you install another web browser. Firefox comes natively installed, Chromium, Brave, or something else, because I'm going to be opening up the article there. Okay? So I'm going to do this complete with commercials. Okay, so we're going to go through this. I'll come back to this in a second. I just wanted to let you see the speed of this browser. All right, I'm going to use that for a second, and I'll click on an item. Now, I saw a significant change on my browser using the same Wi-Fi and the same computer with the same Firefox, because I turned a feature on. And I'll talk about that feature in a second. If you're not a subscriber, I'd recommend that you subscribe. Got 482 videos to talk to you about. Linux for seniors. Linux is for any age. Don't let that deter you from subscribing or watching. Here's my mission statement. I do not get paid for making videos. There's some extra links for you. So on February 9th, 2023, I started this channel. This is not my only channel. I had another one that had 450 videos on it. That one is closed. But in either case, you can see that I have 482 videos to offer you and quite a few views. And I understand why people sometimes don't want to subscribe. But more importantly, you can find my videos either by clicking or searching. You can use keywords. So, example of that and that. Before I did these changes, I would always get a post-it note. I have errors. And the first one that I'm going to talk about comes from a tip from easylinuxtipsproject.blogspot.com. And it's a weird name, /p/firefox.html#ID3. And you can find this page here. You can do a screenshot if you like. And we're going to talk about a couple of settings in here. Not the whole thing in its entirety, but a couple of things. And I'm going to walk you through this, so if you don't feel comfortable by reading this stuff, I'll do it with you. But I do suggest a separate web browser that you open this document there, and then you can make your changes in Firefox. So let's look at number 3. Number 3 is what reduced my error of opening and closing that browser with that nasty post-it note quite a bit. As a matter of fact, it was about 95%. I used to see that message all the time after I installed Mint 22. I'm using the exact same Firefox web browser on Linux Mint 21.3 with the same version, and I don't see that problem. So something changed. But in either case, this made a change. So we just follow the directions. But I'll walk you through. So what I'm going to do is highlight that and right-click with my computer mouse and hit copy. Okay? And then I'm going to open up Firefox. And then in the address bar, I'm going to paste that, or you can hand type it. It's about:config, and hit enter. And you're going to see this. Now, I currently have it set at 130, so let me talk about some of my little tricks first. If you're using a regular computer mouse with a scroll wheel, you can, on your keyboard, hold down your control key, and then scroll backwards with your computer mouse. And this is now at 80%. This will go down to 30. This is way too small for anyone, actually. But as I scroll up past 100, you can see that. I'm going to leave it there and let go of the control key, and it'll remain there. Even after I close and reopen this, you'll see that. Except the risk can continue. So we're going to look at the first setting in here. I'm going to minimize that. The first setting we're looking for is your browser session interval. So I am going to highlight, and keep in mind I can do the same thing on this browser. Hold down the control key, zoom in and out. So make it whatever comfortable size you're at. Okay, I'm going to highlight that word. Right click and copy that, control C. Again, you can just right click and copy. You don't have to use control C. I'm just letting you know that that's the same command. Okay, so Firefox is still open. I'm going to paste that in the search preference name, not in the address bar. And we're going to find out what this is set for. Now you can see there's two settings here. So the browser session interval is highlighted in dark colors versus this is not. That's because that's been altered. So this has a pencil. Sometimes you'll see arrows. The pencil just means you can actually change numbers. So what is the original number anyways? It's 15,000. So the default browser session store interval is 15,000, which equals 15 seconds. To reduce some of that effect where I opened and closed the browser, where I get that post-it note if I open and close too quickly, this reduces that significantly. You just add 4 zeros to the end of that 15,000. That's what you're seeing here. You can just plug in extra zeros, then hit enter. Now, I'm the type of person that anytime I make changes to advanced settings on browsers is to close and reopen. I just funny that way. So all I did was change the interval from 15,000 with some extra zeros, 4 zeros to be exact. So now I'm going to put this over here, putting your Firefox network cache into RAM. That significantly increases the speed of this browser. So I'm going to take out a couple seconds and talk about the bare minimum specifications for Linux Mint 22 and also what you would have on your machine. So let's start with that. I have a shortcut to Linux Mint. It's a web-based icon. So I actually created that using web apps. If you've never seen that tool, it's found on all the Linux Mint products. Web apps also have videos on that. So a couple of days ago, I did a video on basic installation of Cinnamon. And I pointed to this document here called Release Announcement. In here is your specifications for bare minimum stuff. We're just going to talk about RAM today. We can never have enough RAM, right? Well, the bare minimum is 2. If you got 4, all the better. However, if you got more than 4 gigabytes, I can show you how to significantly increase the speed of your web browser. How do you find out what you have on yours if you're not too sure? Well, I will close all that, go to the main menu, open up your system settings, scroll down to the hardware section, and you'll find the last icon called System Info. Open that up. Do you see where it says memory here? That is your RAM. Random access memory. So what is 32.2 GB? That represents 32 gigabytes. So I got well over 4 gigabytes. So if you've got 8 or 16, then we can talk about significantly increasing that. So let's talk about this setting. All right, you'll have a note here. The article recommends do not do this if you have only 4 gigabytes of RAM or less. So generally this is made for folks that have more than 4 gigabytes. And we can do this in 2 ways. We can either do a 512 or a 1 gigabyte. We're going to allocate your RAM out to help your browser. But we're going to first talk about the configuration file. Okay, I'm going to copy that again. And I'll open up Firefox one more time. We're going to be doing this quite often if you're going to make changes. It's still holding my zoom level at 130. So let's talk about the browser cache disk enable. We don't want that. So I'm going to stop here for a second and talk about, we all like fast things. We don't like slow computer stuff. Disk space, disk access. Spinning hard drives are generally slower than solid state drives. And NVMe drives are also solid state drives, but they're faster than standard solid state drives, if that makes sense. but RAM is still king. RAM is normally always faster than us. Normally. But we're going to be turning off the disk cache and we're going to enable to have this stuff done in RAM. So we're going to first copy this over to here to check it. So browser cache disk enable is normally set to true. You can see that's highlighted dark. That's default. So I'm changing that from true to false. I'm toggling the entry. And that is done with that little arrow key. Then I'll close. Now we need to check the capacity. I will also reopen that with the same statement. Again, the reason I'm closing the browsers is to make sure they're saving things correctly. Okay, so now we're going to use this setting here. We're going to check the browser cache memory capacity, which generally is set to -1. Mine is not. Mine is set to some crazy looking number. Did I just plug in an arbitrary number? Actually, I used their numbers. So let me point out the two that are here. So since I have that 32 gigs of RAM, I'm going to be using the 1 gigabyte instead of the 512. I tried both of these and they're roughly the same, but I'm going to try the 104 8576 because I do have all kinds of RAM to spare, as they say. But the 524 288, you can just highlight, copy and paste those, or type them in yourself. That's the equivalency of 512 megabytes that you're allocating out of your RAM for the usage on your browser. I'm using 104 8576, which is 1 gigabyte. Enter. And this one definitely requires you to close and reopen. Okay, but more importantly, you won't. Now, I was going to stop here, but I'm going to talk about the next one here, which is funny. I just caught this as I was doing this because I was really, the only thing I wanted to do was speed up the browser and try to minimize that little message when I click the browser open and closing that message. But then I saw web push notifications and features from hell. I'm reading it right off the screen, folks. Firefox contains a true feature from hell by default. And that, of course, is web push notifications. All right, so sarcasm, right? No, that's what's printed here. So I have not been using this feature for a long time. So I do not know if this will significantly help with this, but I am going to give it a try anyways. So basically we are looking for the web notif area, and that will have several settings. And the one it's highlighted, of course, is the one that's been altered. So the dom.webnotification.enabled is usually true. I changed it to false by toggling. Okay, and that is what the person that wrote this article suggested to do. Change it to false. All right, so basically I am done as far as the settings are concerned, and then I am going to talk a little bit about house cleaning. So house cleaning on web browsers. We know web browsers collect files, but where do they go? Well, they go on your hard drive. So inside of this area here, your file manager, Nemo, has hidden files. Control H, now you see them. Control H, now you don't. You can also right click and do the same. So all you need to know is hidden files do collect. So we are talking history, browser history, the stuff nobody wants to pay attention to. You do need to clean these browsers out occasionally. Otherwise they become sluggish depending on how much traffic you go through on your web browsers. The stuff goes somewhere. It goes on your hard drive. So you can clean out or clear your web browsing data and cookies occasionally. Last hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, or everything. Depending on which browser you're using, this is the setting for Firefox, these boxes look different. But all web browsers have the same capability of clearing browser data. You can see what I have highlighted. How often? Depending on how often you surf. Some people do it weekly. Some people monthly. Some people do it every 3 days, depending. But generally, once in a while, do some house cleaning. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about computer security. A lot of people don't like to hear those words, but we have a lot of malicious actors out there. Always check to see what your web page is, especially if you're looking for banks. You make sure that it says your bank name and not some other site name. Another thing that we get constantly is maybe text messaging that says, please call us immediately about your banking account or credit card, or even emails. May I give you a piece of advice that some people didn't adhere to and they regret? They called those phone numbers off the text message or in the email only to find out that that was a malicious actor. And if it's an email, they clicked on a web link that looked exactly like their bank or credit card. And you probably can think of the rest of the story. Whenever a bank contacts you via text or email about your account being jeopardized, my suggestion to you is to reach in your wallet or your purse and you pull that banking card out or credit card and you call that phone number on the back of that piece of plastic instead of having the convenient link you click on, because it's not always that convenient. That's all I'm going to say, folks, and have a wonderful day.